Hey everybody, this is Tiggy Maximus with Tiggy Maximus Talks on YouTube, episode 183. This is going to be a two-part episode. Going to be talking about two comedy shows. We have Ube World from June 30th at the Mic Drop Comedy Club, and we also have a July 5th Mike Diamond show at the Mic Drop Comedy Club. Two great shows. And on the other half of this episode, I'm going to be talking about Food Truck Thursdays at the Coronado Marriott. And we'll probably talk a little bit about the fireworks in Coronado. But let's start with the comedy show review. So, Ube World. This one was actually advertised on Channel 10 News. Kudos to Mikey Perry for doing that, and I gotta say, it was a packed house. It filled up that big room, over 200 people. Great lineup. We had, of course, the host, Mitch Narita. He was on that TV show, I guess it was called Good Places. Had that show that had Ted Danson. He looks really old, but the fact that this comedian actor Mitch Narita got to be on the same TV show as Ted Danson from Cheers, that's pretty awesome. Great accomplishment. We also have, I believe, was Julia Rose. She's an actress on FX, the TV show Baskets. But she's like this poppin' star. She just started doing comedy as well, and she performs with a guitar, which is pretty cool. And the jokes you can hear through her songs while playing guitar. Then you also have, I believe it's Ramon Smith, guy from Chicago. He also brought what I believe is his wife, Leah Ava. And they do comedy together as Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Really cool couple. They definitely brought the energy. Then we have I believe then we have Rosalie Rosal. She loves talking about praying and preaching and being Catholic and being half-half. We also have Mark Bond, who is now a registered nurse. Kudos to him. Brought big energy to the stage. We also have Eric Esteban. He has a way of teaching us all Tagalog. A great Chicago comic. And of course you have your headliner, the man who brought everything together, got it on Channel 10 News, sold out a packed house, Mikey Perry. The one and only pretty awesome employee of the Mic Drop Comedy Club. The guy is going to have big things happening for him. So there's that show, and then also on the Mic Drop for the Mike Diamond show, we got your host, Walter Ford. We also have Elijah Johnson. We also have Giovanni King, Blake Barty. We also have Kales Barksdale. And then you have your headliner, Mike Diamond. Um, so let's start with the Ube World. Your host is Mitch Narvito. He did talk about being on a TV show, Good Places with Ted Danson. And he also kind of talked about growing up, and he did mention his aunties, his grandmother, and then just the kind of the culture back then, growing up in a Filipino household, and um, what's interesting was he talked about how if you ever go to a party and they have a lot of food, and apparently, uh, if it appears that you're not eating enough food, and it would seem that one of the aunties or the grandmothers will just come up to you and will ask, "Is there something wrong with the food? Do you not like the food? How come you're not eating?" Apparently, you can never eat enough. It never satisfies these titas and these grandmothers, ates. So I can only imagine that, when you show up to a party like that and you eat a lot of food, but then you appear to be not eating, and apparently they ask if there's something wrong with the food. Is my food not good enough? Is something wrong with my food? And you're not eating enough, and then that's just how it is. And of course, you kind of like that attention sometimes, because like it's okay to kind of eat more if you had a good share of your food, but if there's more and you can actually have more food and you have room for it, I gotta say that's kind of funny. I kind of enjoyed seeing Mitch do his comedy. um, I want to say Mitch was a 8.3 out of 10. Um, and then next up, I believe we have Julia Rose, who was an actress on FX, the show Baskets. But she plays guitar, and she incorporated that with her comedy. And she talked about how she has daddy issues, and how her sister always finds the wrong guy. And so you can tell that when Julia plays the guitar, she's very much in sync with her jokes and her music, and it comes out as very funny to a big packed out crowd. So I would say Julia Rose. I would say she was an 8.5. Very funny girl. Um, she's gonna do well on screen, at comedy shows, on TV. So I can't wait to see what else she does down the road. So she seems cool to talk to as well. And yeah, 8.5. 8.5. Yeah, out of 10. I want to say the next person. I believe it was. I want to say it was probably. I think it was Ramon Smith. So, I guess he's a realtor in Chicago, along with his wife, who's the next comic that came up, and Leah Ava. So both Ramon Smith and Leah Ava are both realtors and married couple in Chicago, and they both do comedy together, and it just makes sense that they tour together. So they both came out to San Diego for this Ube World show. I would say myself and others were in for a treat. And Ramon Smith, I remember he talked about being on one of those Pride. He remember seeing a guy at a Pride parade, and this guy, I guess he fell off one of the Pride floats in the parade. But I guess how I remembered it was he must have said this, or gave the impression of that this one guy that Ramon saw had fallen down from the float, but it appears to be in slow motion. and then ends up in a pose. So, um, but it's kind of cool listening to Ramon. Um, I want to say crowd liked him. He did have some good laughs for his jokes. I want to say Ramon was a 8.4 out of 10. Now his wife, she had a fiery energy to her, and she got to interact with this one guy with his wife in the front row. And I guess she was showing off her bottom half of her body, and then was like doing like, you know, you're basically getting all that, I guess you could say, um, vagina pussy energy vibe, and then just showing it off in front of the guy in the front row. Um, but she was super loud, super intense, brought this energy to the stage and the crowd, and she was super funny, and she talked about being a teacher. So you can imagine being a teacher, I guess, also being a realtor, I guess, being a comic. So she's pretty funny. And I would say the crowd liked her. And I want to say that she was probably mentioning her mom or grandmother talked about like making money being a stripper, and then kind of like acted out her reaction when she first heard that her grandmother or her mom had to strip or be a prostitute or something. And then getting I guess some husband, either a Filipino husband or a white husband or something. So and then she was like screaming, and then she was on stage just kind of acting out how she reacted when she first heard that. So that was super funny. I want to say Leah Ava, she was a 8.5 out of 10. So, and then I believe we got Rosalie Rosal. She works at the Mic Drop, and you'll see her quite a bit throughout the San Diego County for comedy shows. And she talked about being half-half. I guess half Mexican, half Filipina. And she talked about being Catholic and how whenever she does something, she can always roll over and she will pray and she'll be forgiven. So she can do anything she wants and then be forgiven for it if it's not something that's suitable for someone like her, I guess. So, yeah, and I want to say Rosalie was 8.4 out of 10 for her comedy, and how the crowd has seen her and laughed at some of her jokes. So she's something. Let's see. Oh, and then we have Mark Bond, registered nurse. He mentioned that on stage, and he talked about dating. I want to say he might have mentioned something about the older ladies, but that might be somebody else. But then he has this intensity. He brought the energy on stage, and he likes to go live and then tell his grandmother and mom that he's doing well. So we had everybody in the crowd light up their phones and then yell out and go and cheer while he was on stage. So that was fun. Um, he was really funny. Um, but yeah, I want to say he was an 8.8 out of 10. And the next person that went up was Eric Esteban. He always likes to teach us a little bit of Tagalog. He said that he grew up not knowing how to talk Tagalog that much, and then talked about how he gets humbled by his mom. Anytime when he says that he does well at a show, and then he says that his mom would tell him, "Oh, the show was really good. Was Joe Coy there? Joe Coy? Was he there?" So I always thought that was kind of funny because of the whole when he mimics his mom saying Joe Coy was at a show of his. That's the reason why Eric did so well at the show, because Joe Coy was there. Um, but yeah, I like when Eric is up there. He's pretty funny. And then he has some mention of the Sound of Music. So, but yeah, I always like when Eric goes up there. I want to say Eric was a 8.7 out of 10. Yeah. And then you got your headliner, the guy who brought everything together, Mikey Perry. I do like Mikey Perry's crowd work. He did some crowd work, and then he talked about some jokes. Talked about his daughter and I guess the heart condition and the prognosis or diagnosis he got for his daughter's body organs and how things are reversed or switched or something. So I always like the fact that when he talks about his mom and the whole thing about my keys to his mom's car versus my key, because his name is Mikey. So so Mikey pretty much got a good laugh when he went. I think it might have been at the beginning of the show, or it might towards when he started his comedy set, that he asked the crowd if anybody saw his Channel 10 special appearance to promote the show. And I guess when he said like, okay, so basically that didn't work, because I guess nobody saw that particular special on Channel 10 News. And then there were people laughing behind the curtain and everybody can hear it. So that was really funny. But overall, Mikey did pretty well with the crowd. A lot of things he was saying on stage. He worked on some new jokes. So I like Mikey's show. I want to say he was a 9 out of 10 for his comedy performance. And I can't wait to see more of these Ube World shows. So if you guys have time, there's another Ube World show on July 28th at the Mic Drop Comedy Club. So who knows? I might be there. I'm actually going to be at the Mic Drop Comedy Club earlier on July 28th, earlier in the day at 1 p.m. because Maya Spillman is on the 50 Shades of Brunch. So if you guys are free on July 28th at 1 o'clock, go to the 50 Shades of Brunch show. It's going to be a good show with everybody on it. I can't wait to go. Comedy and brunch. Two good things. Then I got to talk to just about everybody on that show. So Ube World was a success. Can't wait to see more of these sold out shows. So kudos to Mikey Perry for putting on a great show, and can't wait to see more from Mikey Perry and the rest of the people on the lineup. Next up, I'm going to talk about Mike Diamond's show. Host was Walter Ford.